FSR wins here.
Other than Rd.4 Championship.
Oh, he's done it!
Look at these two go!
Oh, he's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, as you join us once more for the Formula SimRacing Academy Championship. We roll forward to round 4 of our 10-round championship. A quick reflection of how things shaped up in Japan. A fantastic day in the office for ground effect as Lianos and Zalogiannis were able to secure a 1-2 finish for the team, with Loic Moynier rounding off the podium. Today, we travel to the heart of British motorsport, that of course being Silverstone, a circuit with all the right ingredients for fantastic action and excitement, home of the famous Maggots and Becketts, along with key overtaking opportunities down into Stowe and Brooklands. It sure is one to look forward to. Before we dive into quali, let's give a massive thank you to our broadcasting partners of VCO, along with returning sponsors of Mesita eSports, SimLab and 3D Wraps. With that out of the way, my name is Zach Sweeney, joined by Edward Hunter and Tobias Blumschein, and with Felix van Delft on cams. Edward, I'll come to you first. Let's get to your thoughts and feelings ahead of Silverstone.
Well, I'm very excited, Zach. So I'm great to be here, and a wonderful track at Silverstone, of course. Like you say, very fast flowing through Maggots and Becketts, but plenty of overtaking opportunities, like you say, into places like Stowe and the sort of village complex, and also into Brooklands at the end of the Wellington Straight. So we're going to see lots of really, really close competitive racing. But ground effect, having won with 3 drivers so far in the first 3 rounds, they're going to be the ones to beat, that's for sure. Back
Absolutely.
To you,
and Tobias, let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I love Silverstone. First of all, so welcome. Silverstone's a great circuit. I mean, it really is a driver's and a fan's circuit. The fans love it, the drivers love it. It's one of those tracks which just no one really hates. You obviously have, like Edward mentioned, Maggots, Becketts, Cops. It's got some of the most famous corners in motorsport. It's such a lovely circuit.
It really is, and as I said, it really does just breed action, breed excitement, and it's got all the right things, it's got all the right ingredients in order to bring us some action. Well, let's dive straight into our 9-minute quali. These drivers get 3 laps each, 3 hot laps, and yeah, it's all about just setting a good time in for the first 2. Everyone on those soft compound tires, because we get the free choice of tire into the race, so it's pretty much all or nothing for these 3 laps.
Yep, absolutely. And we're just looking at Antoni Carmeligos driving around. Carmeligos, of course, driving for the TR Motorsport squad. Of course, he was competing in the World Championship and has been sort of moved down to Academy. Oh, I say moved down. It makes it sound like he's been demoted when that wasn't really what happened. But certainly Carmeligos, who I did a preview of, the season preview before the World Championship, and he had some really good little sort of IRG eSports, those sorts of championships that he'd done really, really well in. So great to see him back at racing in Academy, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on, because TR, after doing really well in Japan, actually, weren't they? They got a 4th place there, so they're hoping to build upon that here at Silverstone.
Absolutely. Well, at the moment, the ones to watch are Zalogiannis and Vagapov. Purple to the first sector for Zalogiannis. He, of course, able to secure 2nd place last time out at Japan. He's looking to carry that form forwards today. But yeah, you've just got to get these first couple of laps in, settle in, and really get into a rhythm, Tobias.
For sure. I mean, the first lap, will be a banker lap, just seeing the conditions as we got Eureka Peter, Mizaldas going P1, bit of a new driver? No, not sure. As Lianos, again, that team really doing well. Now Zalogiannis gone from. No, yeah, qualifying's important, obviously. You have to think about what position. Well, obviously, want to be as far forward as possible. It's more important in Formula racing than it is in short track, in sprint races like this, or like Formula stuff. So, no. We'll see the drivers doing as well as they can, obviously. But no, as we can currently go with Smith, currently going through Maggots and Becketts. Lovely set of corners. On exit, onto the straight. I do not know the name of.
It's Hanger Straight, isn't it, Tobias?
Thank you. Onto the Hanger Straight into Stowe corner. Probably my favourite corner on the circuit. It's just so nice wide, and then obviously you go out into the chicane and club.
Just got to try and hook it up to round off the lap, because you've done quite a long lap here at Silverstone. It's not the shortest circuit in the world, and you go into Vale and you're just sort of all or nothing, but you don't want to mess it up. Let's see what Thomas Mick can do as he does cross the line. The benchmark at the moment is a 27.9. He falls just short. Well, I say just short, 1.7 seconds off, but it is very close. Only a couple of tenths, if that, between each position. But it is the two ground effect boys of Zalagianis and Lianos that set the benchmark with a 127.9, and then of course Lianos about 2.5 tenths back with P2. We're on board with Loic Mournier. He was able to secure P3 and round off the podium last time out for Team Iris. He's now on his first lap time, and it's looking pretty good. But again, as we say, you've just got to settle into a rhythm. This is a very tricky circuit, through the left, through the right, and then once again to the left, and then through the right once again before you come on to Chapel, and then down the Hanger Straight, and then to Stowe, which again, as you say, it's just brake, chuck the car in, and hope it grips.
Yeah, and I felt really sorry actually from when you're getting pipped by Zalagianis on the very, very final lap through 130R at Suzuka, and apparently Loic Mournier did the whole race because he hadn't mapped his extra power buttons on the wheels. So basically he was using just the engine power, not the sort of battery electrical ERS system. So he did really well, all things considered, but you've got to feel that second was on the table there if only he'd had access to that extra power. But he goes 10th.
Yeah, at the moment, and still, still some time to find, of course. 1.2 seconds off. I'm sure that can come down because there's a lot of time to find at Silverstone. There's a lot of driver corners, as we say, Maggots and Beckett's, where you've really just got to trust the car can grip. Very high downforce cars are these Formula cars, but still, they can be quite twitchy, quite unpredictable. So you really just have to trust the setup, trust yourself, and of course, trust the car. But yeah, of course, Tobias, a lot of preparation would have gone into these teams to try and nail this out. We were talking to Cameron Roger. He said among him and 8 other drivers, they managed to make up 3 different setups that drove very differently, but all sort of amounted to the same sort of lap time.
Yeah, I mean, Silverstone's one of those circuits which has got like so many different properties. You got the slow speed corners, which is the new section basically, the high speed corners, which is Maggots, Beckett, Stowe, as we've all mentioned. It's got a bit of everything, which is something which is quite amazing. So yeah, setups can be quite wildly different and be very similar pace. So you can have it does have that setup diversity, which is always quite nice to see.
Absolutely. Well, on board with Lianos as he goes through Stowe. You can really run the car out wide to the exit there. Zalagianis going purple to the middle sector, white through the first. That means he hasn't improved, but it sure will be a close shootout between the two ground effect cars. Lianos green to the first 2 sectors. What can he do to the final one on this dash to the line? We'll have to wait and see if he's managed to pip himself. Unable to, unfortunately, 6/100ths of a second back on his teammate. What can Zalagianis do? Can he stretch his advantage out in front? It was a good middle sector. Is it an even better final sector? Not quite. Well, he does, just not manage to improve about, 7/1000ths of a second. So it is very close, and there's a lot on the line here.
Yep, indeed there is. And you might be wondering, of course, Kostas Van Vukas, who of course won in Malaysia. Where is he in the ground effect lineup? And I say unfortunately, he's actually been promoted, of course, to pro after his brilliant race at Suzuka, which I did end up doing highlights there for the ground effect team in the pro category, where he almost finished on the podium and just had a little unlucky spin near the end, but it was still an amazing drive there where he really surprised a lot of people. So it's great to see him going up in the world, and of course it opens up the sort of 3rd spot in the ground effect team, which Marta, I believe, currently occupies. But certainly Zalagianis and Lianos, it's looking like the two of them are going to be fighting out exclusively for this championship, the way things are going at the moment.
Yeah, well, still, I say early on, we're approaching halfway through. We're on round 4 of a 10-round season, so we're getting on, but certainly still early days. But yeah, ground effect in both academy and pro really hit the ground running, really doing a fantastic job in both. We spoke about Kostas Van Vukas, who did move up, and as you say, a stunning drive. It was a late entry, managed to pip himself. He started last on the grid, managed to get himself in contention. That is a big slide from Saviniak as he goes through Maggots and Beckett's, and that just shows how tricky this circuit can be, Tobias.
Yeah, it can be quite unforgiving if you go off. I mean, it is now one of those circuits that's got quite a bit of asphalt, but it does have that gravel. So no, if you go off, there's also a lot of grass, which is not very nice to be on because you can slide. But no, it is quite an unforgiving track, especially in Maggots and Beckett if you slightly lose a car. You can also get your lap invalidated, especially in Stowe if you travel a little bit too wide there. So there's a lot of areas which can ruin your lap quite easily. Drivers are definitely worrying about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to take another look at it on board with him as he goes through the left, not using all the track on the right, through the right of Beckett, and again through the left. It might just be a slight mistake, using a bit too much curb. The car snaps back on him and just has to abort to the runoff. Well held, but again, it's just that slight, tiny mistake, and those fine margins really are going to prove dividends and test the difference between the good and the great today, Edward.
Oh, absolutely. So he just got on the little sausage curb, and at such high speed that can really unsettle the car, and so it proved. So Slovenak will regroup, and I don't think he'll have enough time for another go now. So everyone is basically getting into their final runs here as we ride on watch Lianos through Brooklands.
Yeah, unfortunately, white to the first sector. Again, as I say, that means he hasn't improved. Purple to the first sector for his teammate, those Allergianis, who's looking to stretch his advantage out in front. All is not over, though, because he's got this run down into Cops, down the old pit straight for Lianos. He's still got a good, fair way of the circuit to go. Still has time to find, but is it enough to pip his teammate?
I would say no, as Allergianis has been dominant, to be honest, this qualifying session. He's been faster, so it's not by much, but he's improving right now. And I mean, although I could have had the commentator's curse just now, but because he's just gone faster in the second sector, but Allergianis is purple, both sectors, looking really good right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Lianos rounding off into the Vale chicane, braking really just at the start of that curb. You just got to chuck it in again. Try not to use too much of the curb, as it will unsettle the car through Club and this short dash to the line. It will be an improvement, hopefully, for him. Will it be enough to pip his teammate to pole position? It is provisionally 19 thousandths of a second between the two ground effect cars, but Zalagianis across the line pips his teammate by 1/1000th of a second to beat him to pole position. He had a stellar first 2/3 of the lap, really came undone from him in that final sector. Luckily, it was enough for him to secure pole position, or is it? We've got Liam Howard on a lap. He's improved a good first and second sector, and as he rounds off through Club Corner and on that dash to the line, can he get himself ahead of Musadis and on that run to the line? 5 cents. He needs about a 10th improvement to get himself onto the second row, and does so. And yeah, very, very close qualifying, coming down right to the end, and really is just a blink of an eye between the top two.
Absolutely crucial for Liam Howard running third in the championship to keep himself in the mix and not let ground effect completely run away with it. 6 points between Howard and Lianos in the championship, but it's Zalagianis who leads on 80 points at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, this is the top 10 after that qualifying. It is George Zalagianis for ground effect. It's a 1-2 for the team as Lianos, his teammate, rounds off the front row. Then comes Peter Vagapov for Valet Esports in P3. Liam Howard, 4th, rounds off the second row. Very, very close behind is Musadis in P5. Scott Flack, P6 for Super Venturi. Then comes Silviera in 7th. Garrett Battler, P8 with Morlato 9th. And Sophie Jones, a very good qualifying, rounding off in 10th. Place. Very, very close. 1 second covering the top 10. Really is nothing in it.
Yeah, no, there's nothing between them. That's what makes this grid so good, and such a competitive one, which is such a nice thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just fantastic, and of course, such fine margins, 2/1000ths of a second between the two teammates. Hopefully, they won't come together, but who knows? Of course, we've seen time and time again how teammates will play the long game and work together. But at the end of the day, they have got a championship they want to fight for. They've got a championship that they're going to be fighting tooth and nail for. Doesn't matter if they're teammates; they're fighting for themselves. They're racing for their own races, their own race wins. But yeah, hopefully they can provide some fantastic action, Edward.
Indeed, and of course, close behind, I think that's Peter Vagopov's one of his best qualifying sessions of the season so far. I don't think we've seen him as high as 3rd in any of the previous races. So he'll be looking to take advantage. And Valet certainly on a high after yesterday winning the 6 hours of Interlagos in ERC in the LMP1 category. So I've no doubt that Valet will be keen with their 3 drivers in the top 10 to make an impression today.
Absolutely. Well, before we dive straight into the race, we have got a word from our sponsors of 3D Wraps, and then we've got the master at work. Michi Hoyer will take you around the Silverstone circuit. We're going to step away for a few moments, but we'll see you in just a moment.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Formula Sim Racing 2022 series. We are at Silverstone, we are at the home of British racing, and I am delighted to take you guys around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for a flying presentation lap here for round 4 in the Formula Sim Racing 2022 series. Turn 1 and turn 2, right and left, flat out king before a heavy braking zone into turn 3. Want to stay very tight here on the inside, a little bit of an acceleration into turn 4. Then easy on the throttle, traction will be key to get out through flat out turn 5, DRS wide open on Wellington Straits towards turn 6. A very good overtaking spot going into 6. Want to kiss the inside curb very late, and then a tight white tight classic 180-degree turn. Carry all the speed through a flat out turn 8 as we're approaching in 7th gear, Cops corner. 2 downshifts, hug the inside curb, don't run wide on the exit through turn 9, and then the most iconic corner combination, Maggots, Baggots and Chapel. Need to set up rightly for every of those, well, things into the 2nd DRS zone on Hanger Straight. Turn 15, also known as Stowe Corner. A late braking, trail braking into the inside. Want to hug the curb a bit. Don't want to run too wide here on the exit. And then turn 16, 17, 18, the final complex. Want to stay tight here to open up a good entry into the penultimate corner. Acceleration through the right. Final turn and across the line, guys. That is 1 lap here around the Silverstone circuit, and we all can't wait to see who's going to win the race in their own divisions.
Well, a massive thank you to 3D Raps for a word from them, and of course for supporting the FSR, and of course a massive thank you to Mitchy Hoyer for giving you a tour around the fantastic British circuit that is Silverstone. Well, we are just moments away from getting underway for the 32 laps of the British Grand Prix here for the FSR Academy Championship. Qualifying certainly did shape up for it to be a fantastic day of racing today, Edward.
Oh, absolutely. With such a narrow margin between Lianos and Zalagianis in the battle for pole position, you can guarantee that's going to be reflected in the race itself. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ground Effect end up splitting the strategies between the two cars. But we'll have to see how things play out, because if there's any collisions at that first corner, like we saw at Suzuka, it could really change the entire complexion of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, Tobias, we've heard from drivers that the tyres are in a bit of a predicament. They're not exactly the most ideal thing. And of course, Silverstone naturally is going to be very tyre heavy, going to really wear down the tyres. Strategy really could play a massive factor today, especially with how little time you lose in the pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, Silverstone's always known as being quite high on tyre wear because it's quite as a high deg track, due to, for one, having all these really high speed corners and these really heavy braking zones, and a lot of multi-camber, well, not multi-cambered, but someone could say like curved braking points, which do hurt the tyres quite badly. So no, tyres will be a big thing. And obviously remember back in 2013 when drivers were complaining about the curbs cutting tyres, so tyre wear has always been a bit of a factor here.
Absolutely. Well, if you are only just joining us, we are going to talk through the grid as they lined up after qualifying. It was very close, it must be said. Only 2 1,000ths of a second separating the two Ground Effect boys up in front. It was a fantastic qualifying session, and here they are. Zalagianis was on pole position ahead of his teammate Lianos. A 1-2 for Ground Effect with Peter Vagapov P3. Liam Howard rounds off this second row for Netrex. Then comes Musadis in P5, Scott Flack P6 with Silviera P7, and Garrett Battler in P8, rounding off the fourth row of the grid for Royal Blue Racing. Looking down to the rest of the top 10 and beyond, Morlato in P9. Sophie Jones rounds off the top 10 for their best qualifying so far this season. Thomas Smith P11 with Matas Harvick in P12 for Racing Room through P13. Look, Moynier, a podium sitter last time out, fell short in qualifying today with Dmitry Zarhov P14, Fabrice Mistral P15, with Inject Remix for Netrex in P16. They were probably hoping for a little bit better. Thomas Andrea Misoa in P17 with Dylan Hember in P18. Then comes Garnier P19 with Saviniak. We saw him having off through Chapel Curve. He rounds off the top 20 towards the back end of the grid. Marcel P21, Dylan Platt P22, Juan Snetvangas P23 with Carl Malingos in P24 for the TR powered by Geeks Energy car. Then rounding off the grid we have Asing in P25, Wesley Bukout, who had a really good showing in Le Mans, falling short once again in P26, and then Alex Arvel rounding off the grid in P27. We are only moments away, and I really am looking forward to this one, Edward.
Yeah, I believe those last 3 drivers didn't actually get around to seeing a time, Assing, Bukout, and Arvel. So they sort of, I think Bukout was setting the timing screen purple and then just ran out of time to finish the lap. So unfortunate for him. But there'll certainly be lots of ground for him to make up in this race. But our attention is going to be on the guys up front for now, I think.
Yeah, certainly so. We're going to have to wait and see how it all plays out. And yeah, it should hopefully be a very, very good race indeed. Split between the top 4. We've got Peter Vagabov and Liam Howe going for the medium tyres, going for an alternate strategy, whereas the 2 ground effect boys going for this soft tyres. So they're going to be able to get off the line pretty well, but those soft tyres, they're going to degrade pretty quickly. We could see Vagabov and Howard come back into their own a little bit later on in the stint.
Yeah, that's something we should look at. I mean, also look at Dylan Platt on the hards, surprisingly. Back down in P22, he could become something somewhat interesting with that alternate comp pad. As it looks like Smith in P11 is in the pits right now, which I find kind of odd.
That is just a little bit odd, yeah, because he hasn't exactly had the worst of qualifying, so a pit lane start probably is certainly less than ideal, but that run into Abbey through Fireman Village, it can get chaotic, so it might be better just to stay out of the way, but losing a good 16 places probably isn't the best of things. But as we wait for Arvel at the back of the grid to line up, and then we'll go to 5 red lights ahead of the British Grand Prix here for the FSR Academy Championship. And yeah, certainly looking forward to this one. Could it be another good day in the office of Ground Effect? Can they secure another 1-2, or will we see someone else get into the mix as we just wait for the red lights to illuminate your screen? I think we are going to be getting underway fairly shortly. But yeah, Thomas Smith still in the pit lane, which is a shame. The green flag is waved and we are underway. A fantastic start from Lianos as he already tries to pull alongside his teammate. In fact, an even better one from Peter Vagapov trying to get into the mix ahead of the 2 ground effect boys. But a dominant start from Zaligianis as they all funnel their way through into turn 3. Here's Village. Zaligianis running a little bit wide, but still consolidating that lead. Vagapov looking spicy as they go through the loop and then through Aintree and down the Wellington straight. Couple of moves being made further back, but it's 3 abreast. Look at that between those guys. Bit wide there. I think that might be Sloveniak, but so far so good for the 2 ground effect boys.
I think that was Hember actually going wide in the other Severin Arrows car.
Well, yeah, certainly a bit chaotic as everyone just tries to find their way through, using the opportunities very, very wisely. We see Sophie Jones unfortunately falling back outside of the top 10. Vagapov using a little bit of that push to pass, just a little bit extra power in order to make up some places as you've got to maximize every opportunity. There's 27 cars around you, well 26 cars now as you've lost Saviniak on this first lap. There's 26 cars around you, you've just got to survive the melee.
Yeah, that's the thing you have to really be careful of. First lap is always the most hectic lap, obviously, as it's... So you have to be really, really careful. Stay safe. Don't go overly aggressive now. Get into the race rhythm, and then like around lap 3, lap 4, start making that move up if you're starting from the back, or slowly get up the grid. I mean, if you're in first place, it's a completely different mentality. First place, run. That's your entire instinct.
Absolutely, you've got the clear air, you've just got to run away, you've got the pack of wolves behind you, you do not want to fall victim to that, and that's what sort of Zaligianis will be hoping that Lianos and Vagapov fall victim to, is to just be swallowed up by the cars behind, and that will allow him to run away. He is already outside of the DRS range, that will be enabled on lap 3. Bit of melee going on here. This is Zarhov trying to get into mix against Garnier, and Snetvangas into Abbey, running a little bit wide. This is the fight for P14, and now Bukout looks spicy all the way around the outside of turn 2, gives him the inside for Village, gets the move done. He is certainly on a charge, starting towards the back of the grid. He's making steady progress and showing his true pace today.
Yeah, it looked like Andrea Maharasara was also just following them through there, just behind. Yeah, Bukout from near the very, very back of the grid, already up to P16, so he's definitely going to be one to watch as we continue on through lap 2. But also impressing me was Batala in the Royal Blue car, getting up to 5th from, I think he was 7th or 8th on the grid. So he's already made up a few places, so that's really good start for him on the soft tyre.
Absolutely, and he's just got to close the gap. He is in the DRS range of Liam Howard. The DRS, the drag reduction system, will be enabled on lap 3, and as long as you're within 1 second of the car in front, you will be able to use that to your advantage and close the gap. Hopefully, materialize a move. But we're on board with Musadis in the an independent driver on the back of Batala and trying to close the gap. But they've got to manage their tyres. They've got to make sure these softs do the job they want to do. You don't want to be going too hard too quickly, especially in a race of I guess you could say attrition side by side between Scott Flack and Silviera as they go on the run through Stowe in towards Vale, and I think Scott Flack just going to edge his way ahead at the moment. But yeah, Silviera definitely looking feisty. But yeah, Tobias, it's in a race of attrition where you've got to manage the tyres. You do not want to be killing the tyres too quickly early on in the stint.
Yeah, someone who does endurance, I definitely know the feeling of having to save tyres and keeping them really good for the team. Although you really don't want to, you need to in these sort of cases. That's one of the most important things in attrition races, where you've got a car where you've got to stay along, where you've got a track which has got high degradation, and you have to stay for them on for a long period. Save the tyres, go easy on them, don't push the car too much. Also, just like to mention, drivers like Loic Mounier and Arvel had a really poor start. They're already in the pits again. Loic Mounier's had to go in the pits again.
That is a big shame, and we've just been informed he did have a penalty to serve, which is a shame because coming off the back of such a good result, a podium last time out in Japan, you want to carry that form forward to give yourself that mental boost. But unfortunately, motorsport, it's harsh and it will always bite back if you're not careful. And unfortunately for Loic Mounier, today is the day. But hopefully for them, they can try and recover, try and gain a couple of places. Seems outlandish, but stranger things have happened. Musadis on the back of Garrett Battler, and again still Liam Howard on the back of Vagapov, fighting over the podium and the top 5 respectively between the two. Musadis using his push to pass, using his DRS, so certainly eyeing up a move here.
Oh yeah, certainly. It'd be great to see the independent driver get a top 5 result. That'd be quite a story. But Vagapov, we saw on the previous lap, just weaving to the inside on the Wellington Straight just to sort of cover up any potential attack from Liam Howard. So Vagapov, far from attacking Lianos, he's suddenly in defensive mode.
Absolutely, it's that thing, being third, or second in any train. You want to look forward, but you've also got to be aware of that car behind. And yeah, those soft tyres really coming into their own. Here comes Musadis diving to the inside of the loop. We see this one way too often. Batala all the way around the outside, keeps him honest, has the run through Aintree. But now Musadis, he's got the DRS. He's going to use a bit of push to pass down the Wellington Straight to the left-hand side. It's the inside, it's the dominant line in towards Brooklands. He is ahead, and he has got himself inside the top 5 all by himself. He's got no support of a team around him. He's doing this all by himself, and really impressing so far in this race. And that was a good move, just darting to the inside, putting Batala off just a little bit, but he still managed to maintain that run to solidify the move.
Yeah, he did a good move there going into left field. Very well done. And it's doubly impressive to see him up in P5 in an independent car. That's quite a tough thing to do because you have to do the setup work all on your own, and you don't have a teammate to compare with and help you. So that's something really impressive seeing what we're seeing here.
Yeah, definitely getting his presence onto the radar. Lianos he's flirting on the edge of that 1 second range to Zalagianis, his teammate, as they sort of break away from the field behind. Can Batala do anything to get himself back in front, get himself back inside the top 5, not down into Stowe, but he's certainly going to be interested just to stay there. Maybe use Musadis just as sort of a tow truck to get onto the back of Liam Howard and Peter Vagapov, just to use him, let him do all the work. But this is one mighty train for the midfield. Sophie Jones unfortunately dropping back another couple of places to Morlato and Remits. But yeah, this is where you as a driver really are tested. The patience, picking your way through. No, it's just spatial awareness, general spatial awareness. This is really going to separate the good from the great, as we've got a fight between Morlato and Remits, as they all they want that top 10, but there's just so many cars around them. You have to be patient.
Indeed, and Sophie Jones not quite getting the best out of the soft tyres. Whoa! Morlato spins it, and everyone does pretty well to avoid him. Oh, full 360 degrees by Morlato there.
Well, that certainly has opened the door for a couple of opportunities. We can see Remits looking to the inside of Mistral for the top 10, certainly putting him off his line. Did the Netrex driver as they go through in towards left field. Mistral holds him off for the time being, but that spin, yeah, certainly would have caught a couple of people out, certainly would have been to the surprise, and a couple of people would have had their hearts in their mouths. and certainly would have skipped the beat there. But yeah, that's the thing. Again, you can't trust anyone around you. You're racing so close. You want to stay close in order to maybe manufacture a move, but you just can't. Are they going to go side by side? Bukout on Jones. Oh, what a move from Wesley Bukout to get himself into P12. That is brave. That is bold. And that is Wesley Bukout, his true pace. Now we've got Garnier on the back of Jones, who really is just going backwards and falling to the clutches of this Wolfpack behind. Snetvangas as well, looking to the outside of Stowe corner. Is that a move from Remets and Mistral putting pressure on each other? Snetvangas goes around the outside of Garnier through Stowe. Brilliant move, very bold, and again, taking advantage of the train, using the cars around you. Garnier going to come back up the inside, and when you've got so many cars around you, you've just got to capitalize off every opportunity you can. It's like a kart race.
Yeah, Snetvangas and Garnier, sorry Tobias, have been having an amazing battle the whole race. It's been really fun to watch. Meanwhile, up front, Lianos has got the gap to 6/10 down to his teammate in the lead.
He really has. He's closing in well within DRS range. Snetvangas again still fighting, bit of a twitch as they go through the loop. Wants to set himself up as best he can in order to get himself back inside the mix. But that's the problem, isn't it, Tobias? Just you're fighting too hard, then you lose touch of the pack behind. We've got Mistral again trying to put some pressure on Remets. Bukout, he's there. He's shown his presence, and from where he started to be teetering on the edge of a top 10 this early on in the race just goes to show how good he is.
Yeah, I mean, Wesley Bukout really showing why he's what his worth and his quality in this pack, which is really amazing to see. Actually, it's one of those great pleasures you get to see in racing when you see these drivers go from the back right up to the front. It's one of the most amazing things to see.
Absolutely, really showing his mettle and getting his name out there. Of course, was a front runner at Imola and carried that forward through Malaysia and Japan. And yeah, certainly is one to watch. So showing how good he is, because getting your way through a pack, it's so easy. Getting pole position, running away, not seeing anyone else for the entire race. You're under no pressure. But when you're in that situation of Bukout, where you've got so much at stake, you're trying to carve your way back through the field. You've had a poor qualifying. You haven't been able to set a lap in qualifying, whatever the reason is. And you've got that pressure, whether you want to fight for a championship or whatever it is, you need to pick up the points. You've got that pressure, you've got all these cars around you, and he's really shown good composure, just picking his way through, showing where he is quicker. He knew he was quicker than Sophie Jones into Maggots and Beckett's. He knew he had the grip, he trusted his car, and he's still in the mix. And again, he's got the pace, easily could get past Mistral and Remits, who are fighting very hard, but he's just taking his time. He's going to pick his way through carefully. Very easily could have gone for the dive there into loop, but didn't, and he's just playing it patient. He's got a long race to go, and he knows how quick he is, so we'll have to see how much progress he can make, but he's certainly doing a fantastic job.
Indeed, and Bukout, who of course always will look at a move up front, and they come together into Brooklands.
Oh, big slide. They've managed to get it, and that's the sort of opportunities that Wesley Bukout needs to capitalise on. It's brought Sophie Jones and Garnier back into the mix, still side by side between Mistral, who's on the left-hand side. They're going to be side by side on the run to Cops. Bukout might be able to follow Remits through here, might see an open opportunity into Cops. He's got the run, but again, just tucking it back in. And Edward, that's, again, the patience. Has he got the run into Maggots and Beckett's? Are we going to see a similar move here?
Yeah, here we go. Around the outside goes Wesley Bukout, full of confidence. Is he going to make this work? Oh, he just about gives him room there. And Wesley Bukout up to 11th and looking at a place in the top 10 now. Remits will be very worried.
Yeah, certainly so. He's got a very, very quick Team Iris car behind him. Back to the front between the two ground effect cars. It seems Alagianis has fallen off a little bit. It's allowed Lianos to close the gap now to just 0.4 of a second. Are we going to see these guys fight? Are we going to see Lianos start putting some pressure on? Or are they just going to work together as the two ground effect cars? But hopefully we can see some action for the race lead here, Tobias.
Yeah, that's gonna be something really good to see. As Remits has gone actually into the pits, that does put nearly everyone up in peak position. I'm not sure that's the right. It's a bit early to pit, but I'm not sure it's the right idea. As we've got a yellow flag, I believe that is Smith's retired. That's a bit of a new thing. As we go down into Luffield, I don't know what the next corner is.
Brooklands
but,
and then Luffield.
Brooklands, love you. Thank you. No, and we're watching currently. Watching Musaidis following Liam Howard going back down into Cops. Great corner, Cops.
Yeah, it really is a fantastic corner, and Musaidis. Liam Howard unfortunately falling off onto the back of Peter Bagapov, so unfortunately Musaidis hasn't got the sniff of the podium that he once had a moment ago, but is doing a great job in showing his pace for an independent car. We have said a little bit earlier on, and he is on the back of the Netrex driver, who you would expect these soft compound tires that would to have fallen off, but he's still managing to put the pressure on a person who's got the tire. In fact, got himself in front down the hangar straight to get himself into P4. But you'd expect these soft compound tires to and Liam Howard into the pit very early for mediums.
Yeah, indeed. So Liam Howard not really able to get the pace out of the mediums. Vagapov also the only one sort of making it work because he's kept Lianos just about in sight to the tune of about 4 seconds. But yeah, what he really needs is the two ground effect cars to battle each other. Liam Howard, I think he thinks the medium tires is not the one to be on because he's gone right onto the soft side.
He has, yeah. So going for a bit of an unorthodox strategy. Maybe the tyre wear is that bad, but Muzelis, you wouldn't expect him to put that much pressure on. Maybe a couple of lockups for Liam Howard has sort of degraded his tyres, but look where he's come out. He's not come out in clear air at all. Just behind Massa and just behind this massive midfield train. On a tyre you've got to make the most of, Tobias. You've got to maximise the tyre while you've still got the grip. He doesn't want to be spending it, cutting his way through traffic.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the softs are very quick at the beginning of the stint, but then degrade obviously a bit quicker. So you really have to be in a good position. As he's trying to move down the inside of the ground effect car there, Massa just a bit too far away. However, he's put him on a worse trajectory in the court into left field. Will he try around the outside? Howard loses the car a bit slightly, so he's not going to have a chance going into Cops now. So he's going to have to stay a little bit behind. However, he seems to have a bit more top speed than Massa. Tries looking down the inside. Still can't make it. That's the thing. Some corners in Silverstone, you basically cannot pass that. Tops, you can, but it's tough.
You have to have a convincing run up the inside because it's such a quick corner. It's just a flick to the right. So if you show your nose there, you are more than likely going to get turned across to no fault of the car in front. But you've just got to be careful. You've got to go take an error caution. Liam Howard looking to dummy his way to the inside of Stowe late under brakes, but you're not on the brakes for very long. And again, alluding to your point that you've got to have a convincing run to get round here. And Massa picking up a monumental fight, a big dive from Liam Howard. He really did send that one into the Vale chicane. Oh! Contact. He's been sent round. Luckily managed to save it, but again, Liam Howard, the driver that was P5 in this race, really not getting off to the good start on this second stint.
No, not at all, and it just about holds off Morlato actually, who I think is after his own spin is trying to recover. But yeah, Liam Howard, we saw he was not only did he have the problem when he went offline at Luffield, but also there's this big DRS train. They're all getting DRS from one another, which means that he can't overtake down the straights and be in a position to use the better grip from his tires. So Howard really the strategy not working out for him so far on the soft, so he really needs to regroup and try and make progress if he can get himself back into the points. As the two valets here of Jones and Zaharov battling one another, and Zaharov almost has a look at the inside of Sophie Jones there at Luffield.
Yeah, absolutely. Just got to recompose yourself, get back into the swing of things, get back into that rhythm, and then just settle down a little bit. But yeah, this midfield fight really is spicing up. Lianos on the back of Zalagianis. Still the two ground effect cars are there. Still 1 and 2 as they were as they rounded off qualifying. But yeah, the two valet cars fighting very, very hard. Zaharov on the back of Jones through Chapel and down the hangar straight towards Stowe corner. Has Zaharov got a run on his teammate? Not quite, because Sophie Jones closing on Mistral, pulls to the right hand side, now trying to make some progress forwards after falling back in this first stint, gets themselves into P11. The two valet cars now going to go side by side. We've got a car off. I think that's Andrea Mierisoa if I'm not wrong, and this is Jones to the inside. Zaharov trying to capitalize off that opportunity, and a fantastic move from Dimitri in order to get himself back into P12. He was just waiting for the move, and this is heartbreaking for the Royal Blue car. Indeed,
Andrea Harriso was actually doing really well to hold off Massa and Liam Howard earlier, and the rear end of that car is totaled completely, so that's the Royal Blue driver will go no further. But Zalagianis also pitted just before then from the lead, so he's come out in 5th, so he'll be looking to try and capitalize and gain a bit of ground, keep his teammate behind him. But look at how this played out, Zach.
Oh, just a tap. That's all it was. Sent him into the barrier and bang. And unfortunately lost his rear wing, lost his rear left tyre as well in the process. Still tried to bring it back into the pit lane, surprisingly enough. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be continuing it anymore. This is Bukat making once more another move into P8. Harvick going to put some pressure on. We've seen Bukat make some moves into Magnussen Beckett. He might have been under pressure into Magnussen Beckett that time around, but on that occasion didn't. wasn't under pressure. Liam Howard again trying to go for the move on Zarahov side by side. That's not how it's done. Sent off and nearly into the barrier potentially for Liam Howard. Luckily, there's a ton of runoff there for him to use, but once again, the Netrex driver, he's getting cheered on in the chat, but Liam Howard, this second stint has just got off to the most appalling start for him. And a move through Magnussen Beckett, yes, you've got the soft compound tyres, but it's just so tricky to go through there without making contact.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if it works, it's an amazing move, but if it doesn't, it just doesn't. I mean, Liam Howard's had a torrid time on those soft tyres, and I think they might be quite flat-spotted now, to the point where he might have to stop again. This could ruin his race, actually. These two incidents he's had, I mean, it's really tough when this happens. As we're currently on with Silvera, currently behind Flack for P6, as we see Wesley Bookout, I think, behind him. Never mind, no we don't.
This is Silvera looking to the inside of Scott Flack, unfortunately unable to make the move, well, trying. Bookout is a couple of seconds back, but is closing with those medium tyres. He certainly has got some good pace. He's just managed to pick his way through the field one by one, being patient, and on lap 12 of 32, after starting very far down in this grid, Silvera looking to the inside of Cops, but again, just backing out, filling the mirrors, I think, playing the psychological game, just waiting, just being patient and biding their time, just filling the mirrors and saying, I'm here, I'll go for a move, and that then puts the pressure on Scott Flack in order to try and make the mistake there, and that will allow Silvera to maybe make a bit of an easier move.
Indeed, and while that's been going on, Zalagianis has been flying on his new set of soft tyres, 24.8 in the first sector, fastest of anyone, and he's got past Jared Patalo in the Royal Blue. So it's George Zalagianis is going to be closing up to Muzadis very, very quickly and making a move back onto the podium. So Lianos will have to react to this, as Scott Flack, I think, is about to come into the pit lane.
Yeah, well, that'll make Silvera's time a little bit easier in order to get past the Super Venturi driver. But yeah, Zalagianis will be trying to close and get themselves back on to the podium. I'm unsure if they've actually come into the pit lane or not. We'll have to get that confirmed. I didn't actually see him come into the pit lane, but I did see him lose time to Lianos. But we'll have to see. But yeah, Zalagianis, Lianos, both driving fantastically well in this race, both with some remarkable consistency and remarkable pace, it must be said. As we once again ride on board, this is Remits on the back of Zarahov, looking to the outside of Village, but unfortunately unable to make that one work. Zarahov goes in deep. This means Remits are going to try and go for the under and over. Gets the under and over. Beautifully done as they now run through Aintree and down the Wellington straight before Brooklands. And yeah, with the DRS, this should be a done deal. Zarahov using his push to pass, try to put some pressure on, but meanwhile, all while they fight, the more they fight, the more time they lose, the more tyres they use up, and it's just, it really is less than ideal. Is the track position worth it?
Oh, it depends on the strategy, doesn't it? Tobias, what do you think?
Yeah, it really does depend on the tyre strategy. It's so important. I mean, Remits has already done a pit stop. I think he's going to have to go in again. I think a lot of drivers, as we can see right now, are trying to get above that halfway line, which is about 18 laps on the race, just so that they can get that one stop. As you got Lianos in the pits, it would not surprise me if some drivers go onto the hards in this race, just so that they can go to the end and don't have to worry about pitting anymore. Lianos currently going onto the mediums, so that means he might try and go to the end if he's gone on the soft for 14 laps. That's quite a statement on those tyres, is it not?
Yeah, it is. It really is. We saw how bad the condition of those tyres were. Really were. Well, they've seen better days for sure. Onto the medium, so you would assume is going to go for that two-stop. And, you know, we usually say Silverstone is a really long pit lane because it's so slow and long and you lose a lot of time. But here, I spoke to Cameron Roger, it's only about 13, 15 seconds that you lose. So in some cases, it really is better off just taking the extra pit stop because you lose more time staying out on those older tyres. Yes, you've got track position, but it's not exactly difficult to overtake around Silverstone. So it's just about picking the moments, deciding what is right. Of course, you don't want to do an excessive amount of pit stops, but at the same time, you don't want to do too little. This is Zalagianis using his soft compound tyre grip to get himself back in front of Musadis in towards Magnussen Beckett, and that is pretty much an easy affair for him, as he's now got some clear air to try and push and rub in these soft compound tyres and try and use them to the best of their ability for the second stint.
Indeed, and meanwhile, this has been going on. Peter Vagapov has been leading for, I think, the first time in the Academy Championship this season. We've seen him put in some really good performances and finish in the top 4. But we've not seen him lead yet, so Peter Vagapov really wants to get his first podium in the Academy Championship and is looking on course at the moment to do so. But we're interested to see how hard he fights Zalagianis on his mediums.
Yeah, absolutely. You would imagine not too particularly hard, as he's got his own thing to do. He's on an alternate strategy, doesn't really need to be fighting Zalagianis. He's got other people to worry about. That's Musadis and Silviera and those people that are going to be putting some pressure onto him a little bit later on, those that are on a similar strategy to him. This is Lianos looking to the inside of Batalha. That's very close into Village. Batalha just giving him the squeeze, but it was a bit of a send from Lianos, who now through the loop and then through entry and down the Wellington Straight will have the DRS. He does want to make this a pretty easy affair to try and have some clear air and chase after his teammate potentially, but yeah, just look at the closing speed with the push to pass and the DRS down in towards Brooklands. Very, very easy affair, and now Lianos can try and push forward and again make the most of these medium tyres.
Yeah, he has to. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he's probably going to try and go as long as possible on those tyres and have a really quick dash on the softs. That would probably be the best strategy for him right now. He's quite far off his teammate Zalagianis, so I don't think he's going to have much hope in catching him. Also, just like I mentioned, a bunch of cars are starting to come in now, so the pit window really has truly opened now, which is something really good to see. This is when the race gets even more exciting.
Yeah, we've seen before how races can be won or lost in the pit lane with differing strategies and things like that. And as important as on-track action is, you've really got to hit the nail on the head in strategy. We see it all the time in endurance racing, how things funnel off and do different things over the course of a 6, 8, 12, 24-hour race, etc., etc. As Peter Vagapov is now into the pit lane. Wesley Bukout doing his signature move around the outside of Dmitry Zarahov to get himself into P11. He really is on fire with those moves through Maggots and Beckett's, but yeah, we see it all the time in endurance racing, but it is just as important in sprint racing, and maybe even more so as Snetvanger's Morlato still going at it for P14. This midfield really is spicing up, but yeah, Edward, in a sprint race, you're spending less time in the pit lane. Netrex going around the outside of Morlato. Fantastic racing as we've seen amongst this midfield, but yeah, less time in the pit lane just means you've got to maximize each more, just that little bit more and sent round.
That was a bit optimistic from him, but and unfortunately Morlato once again losing out. But yeah, certainly, as you say, strategy absolutely crucial. And Vagapov pitting from the lead to go for hard tyres there. That is very interesting.
It really is. We're going to have a look at how this one fabricated. Hember trying to capitalise off the fight to the inside, just got squeezed out, sort of wanted to go for it, then backed out of it, and then he found himself being tagged. And it was either that or a massive sausage curb on the inside of the first part of Vale. And yeah, these cars are very sensitive. Any bit of contact really is so easy for them to be sent round.
Yeah, he just got really unlucky there, I'm afraid. I mean, he couldn't really do anything there. I felt, in my opinion, he was side by side there and should have been given the room more. But yeah, it's racing in the end. This stuff happens.
Oh, we got some more racing coming up, Tobias. Here comes Scott Flack through Cops, and he's past JM Garnier.
Very nice move, and that's the thing we've been talking about, isn't it? You've got to have a run into Cops. You can't just stick your nose in, but Scott Flack showed you how to get it done. He had the convincing run, just managed to pip his nose up the inside and drive up the inside. And to be, again, through Cops, it's so difficult to run side by side because naturally the car on the inside will want to wash out to the outside. We've got Wesley Bukout again trying to make up some more places. This is Garnier and Remitz going side by side. We've seen how Wesley can capitalise off two cars fighting before through Stowe. Now ticks off Garnier, who wants to come into the pit lane, so wasn't going to fight that one too hard. Wesley Bukout up into P11, could be P10 by the end of the next lap, potentially even P9 if he gets onto the back of Scott Flack. But yeah, Bukout really is showing his mettle in terms of just picking his way through. Waited for the move into Stowe, tucked his nose in and found himself through.
And Bukout currently the fastest man on track. He's set a 38.8 in the middle sector there. Very impressive as he continues to fight.
He does indeed. Bit of contact as he gets a little bit argy-bargy through Village, but hey, you got to be aggressive as they try and negotiate some traffic. That was very, very close. Now we can push on towards Scott Flack just a little bit in front. Remitz and Zarahov, I think, no, potentially not, no, because Zarahov was about 5 seconds back. But yeah, Wesley Bukout certainly getting his elbows up. You've got to be, in terms of racing, you've got to be when the cars are this close. This is the Liam Howard versus Dmitry Zarahov through Laughfield. Liam Howard making some progress, trying to recompose himself after some earlier misfortune.
Yep, indeed, and good to see Liam Howard putting his head down and making some progress there. But I'm very, very interested if Peter Vagapov is going to try to go to the end on those hard tyres. He's about 15 seconds behind Lianos at the moment. I wonder if this is a strategy and that's going to pay off for him, because if the two leaders pit in front of him, potentially be leading and get overtaken near the final laps. As here we go, Bukout making another move on Scott Flack almost immediately into Stowe.
Really not waiting around at all, is he? Managed to get himself ahead under brakes and up into the top 8. But yeah, very interesting call from Peter Vagabov. If he is going to the end on those hard compound tyres, we'll have to see if it pays off. He's going to be slower, but again, minimising the amount of time he's going to spend in the pit lane. So, you know, maybe he thinks he's got P3 in the bag. He might as well try something for P1 and 2. And when you're in that sort of situation where, you know, Zalagianis and Lianos are both so quick, pretty much unmatched, unrivaled, Tobias, you've just got to try something different.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, he wants to win this race. Everyone wants to win a race, obviously. It's quite a big thing for them. So he's obviously going to try something different. You can really see it. It's really good to see that, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is Bukow. Again, another move straight away up the inside of Harvick. He just doesn't wait around. He sees a move, sees a gap, up the inside he goes, and then he presses on, looks for the next guy. He's like, okay, I've done this guy. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? And already up into P6, you know, he's just absolutely flying.
Yeah, I thought actually Bukow showed a lot of restraint earlier when he was stuck behind Snetvangers and was it Morlato that Snetvangers was battling with, and the two of them were side by side. Bukow sort of backed out a bit, and I thought, very sensible, Wesley. But now he's really going at it. Now he's got the sort of the tyre advantage on the softer tyres, on newer tyres, crucially as well. He's just really chewing through the field and getting himself very close to the top 5 now, which is amazing considering where he started.
Yeah, absolutely. That Team R is absolutely flying. Got some fantastic pace. Could be a menace for some of the front lot a little bit later on. I mean, 30 seconds back on Zalagianis. Maybe not for the race win, but, you know, stranger things have happened. But a top 5 certainly is on the cards for Bukow, considering where he started. He's doing a fantastic job and already onto the back of Garabasala for P5. It's softs versus mediums. Maybe those softs have seen better days, though, but he certainly doesn't feel the consequences of that. He's still flying under brakes into Village. He's going to have the DRS. He's going to probably use a bit of push to pass, looking to the inside of the loop again, just to fill the mirrors of Vitala and say, I'm here, I will go for a move. You know, Battler maybe not have seen it so far this race, but Bukow doesn't like to wait around. Using some DRS, look at the closing speed. Has he got the run in towards Brooklands? He's certainly going to maybe have a look, but in a corner that's that fast, it's better to just put the pressure on. Batala going in slightly deep, and this is now going to allow Wesley Bukow to just set up a move. You've got to chain up a couple of corners, and then get the run.
That looked a bit defensive from Jared Batala there, actually, with his move, his early go to the inside in Brooklands. But yeah, like you say, put him offline, and now he's sort of committed to driving really defensively. But here comes Bukow once again out of cops. He's got so much speed, but can he make it into Maggots and Beckett? Not on this occasion.
No, not quite. You know, we've seen it before, but hey-ho, through the next part of Beckett's and then into Chapel. He's certainly got a better run, certainly a lot closer with the DRS. Batala already to the right-hand side trying to defend. Leaves a bit of a gap, so Wesley's going to say, okay, I'm going to come through. You've left the gap for me. Can Garabatala go all the way around the outside? He's certainly going to try. Bukow's got the dominant line, claims the corner, and with those soft compound tyres, surely isn't going to be contested into the Vale chicane. He is on fire. He is absolutely flying and really giving us some fantastic action here, Tobias.
Yeah, he really is. It's so much fun to watch, I have to say. I'm loving it. I mean, I think the past 5 laps, he's gone from P11 up to P5. And now he's going to try and hunt down Musaidis in P4. Although I don't know if he's had a pit stop yet, so that could be something quite important for the race. If he's done a pit stop or not is the big thing, I think, for Wesley Bukow to see if he's net P4.
He has done one, Tobias, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him coming again on his strategy, especially the way he's chewing through those softs.
He's using a lot of them, a lot of that tyre life in order to make these moves, but hey, we are not complaining at all. This is Silviera versus Liam Howard. Silviera soft on soft. They clear the traffic, but Liam Howard under pressure, having to go sort of partially defensive, covers off the inside. Silviera going to try his luck around the outside of Brooklands. Look at that for a move, using the soft compound tyres. You know, equal pegging between the two, but just brave, bold under brakes and managed to carry the speed through. And that's really what you've got to do through a corner like Brooklands, Tobias, is just use the trail brake and pitch the car towards the front and just hope that the car's got enough grip to send it through, and he managed to make it work on that occasion.
Yeah, I mean, Brooklands Lovefield is one of those sections where you really have to be careful on the brakes and trying to get your line right. I mean, Lovefield, I still don't know how to take that corner properly because it's such a tough one, because you've got basically 2 big lines there. You can either take that really tight inside line, really minimize your trajectory, or you can take the inside line, which gets you much better acceleration. I personally prefer the second one because it means that you just get so much quicker into cops.
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4 different lines you can take through Luffield. Liam Howard into the pit lane for the second time. Hopefully for him, the final time, he's going to probably change onto those medium compound tyres. Don't forget the 2 ground effect boys. Maybe, yes, they are 7.5 seconds apart, but Zalagianis has to use those medium tyres at some point. Lianos has to use the soft compound tyres again, probably, you'd imagine. So that pace could swing back to the way of Lianos a little bit later on. But yeah, as you say, you've got, you can minimize the amount of distance you travel, which is fantastic. You're not going to get the best of runs towards Cops, or you can take a nice V shape, go in, cut it back, get a straight line exit, or you can just stay in deep, go in wide, and then bring it back a little bit later on. But yeah, you can take either one, and a lot of them work. But in terms of a race situation, minimizing the distance just doesn't leave an open gap on that inside.
No, not at all. And Muzadis actually, interestingly, getting within about 2 seconds of Peter Vagapov. So Vagapov on those harder tyres, yeah, he's worrying about Lianos and Zalagianis up front. Zalagianis dies for the pits now, actually. So it's all happening now.
Yeah, he's got 10 laps, 10 lap sprint, you'd presume, on those medium tyres. And yeah, he's going to just try and push as hard as he can to the end. Just got to maximise these mediums. Yes, they're a harder compounded tyre, so they can take more of the brunt force of Silverstone. And, yes, he probably could get to the end on softs. Of course, he can't because of the tyre regulation. But yeah, it's just better to take the mediums because you can push them harder. You're not worrying about conserving them much. But it'll be interesting to see what Lianos does onto the softs to just try and push flat out for the last sort of 8, 9 laps whenever he comes into the pit lane and just try and close that gap. Or if he goes to the mediums again and again, just try and push. But surely, they seem pretty consolidated in second. If he wants to win this race, he can just go onto the softs and hopefully just close the gap as quickly as possible.
And the Vagapop strategy has also really failed here because look, Zalagianis has jumped him, kept in front, and now Muzadis is all over the back of him.
Yeah, he really is, and we'll have to see. But Muzadis, yeah, he has been the star. We saw Peter Vagapov trying to minimise his time in the pit lane. That unfortunately hasn't worked for him because he's fallen a couple of seconds short of Zalagianis, and now Muzadis on a slightly better tyre, Tobias. Maybe it's all unravelling for Peter Vagapov. In theory, seems to be a good strategy, but maybe in practice, not so much.
Yeah, that's something we're starting to see now, but it does also. I believe Muzadis still has to pit one more time. If not, then I think he might have the better strategy, but Peter Vagapov's tyres still will have a good amount of life in them, I believe, for the end of the race. But no, I don't think it was the correct strategy for him.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how it pans out. Still a little bit way to go, and still time for things to unravel. We saw how quickly it unraveled for Liam Howard, so definitely could show some more misfortune for our top 4. But yeah, Muzadis has just been doing a fantastic job all race long. He's just, for an independent car to come in and without the support of a team, just to show his raw pace around a circuit as fantastic as Silverstone. If a top 5, a top 10 in your first race, independent would be a good result. But he's really showing his mettle as Peter Vagapov goes in deep, makes a mistake through the loop. That's going to open the door for Muzadis to get himself onto the podium for now. Peter Vagapov going to come back at him though on these hard compound tyres. He hasn't got the assistance of the drag reduction system that Muzadis has got, and a fight into Brooklands is not on the cards for Peter Vagapov, unfortunately. Now Muzadis can try and push forward. If he has got another stop, yeah, it will be difficult for him to consolidate a podium, but just for him to be in this position full stop is remarkable enough, Edward.
Indeed it is, and that's right on board Peter Vagapov on the hard tyres. So it's going through the second part of the loop. He comes in, just slides it a bit. The rear just wouldn't hold on him, and that really let his rival get the upper hand on him.
Yeah, indeed, it is just one of those things. You turn in a bit too early, have to turn out of it, and you kill all that momentum through probably the corner. That it's the most important traction zone on the circuit, just to get that drive down the Wellington Straight and that run into Brooklands. And unfortunately for him, it was the time where he was under the most pressure possible. But we'll see what Muzadis does in terms of strategy, whether he dives himself into the pit lane or tries to nurse these medium tyres to the end. That's probably the most unlikely strategy, because then Peter Vagapov will come back into his own on those hards, which will hit a cliff a lot later on. But yeah, here is Garnier. Is that around the outside of Liam Howard? I think it was through Cops. Liam Howard's going to come back at him, both using their push to pass in the run towards Maggott and Beck. It's Liam Howard learning from his mistakes a little bit earlier on, saying, no, I'm not going to spin off this time. I'm going to back out and get that run out of Chapel and down the hanger straight, Tobias.
Yeah, that's something we really see. And also, I feel really bad for Liam Howard. He's really had a tough race here, hasn't he? As he's going around the outside of Stowe of JM Garnier. Really going to have to stick it there. That's a really tough move. If you can pull it off, it's a great one, and he's done it. Brilliantly done from Liam Howard here. However, he's going to have to cover him, because then going to the chicane and it's a club, he tries it, but he just isn't there, Gagne. And now Liam Howard is going to go after Sophie Jones in P11. Might still be able to get the top 10. Harvick is 8 seconds up the road, though, so that could be a bit of a stretch.
Could certainly well be, but yeah, if anyone can do it, Liam Howard can do it. He has got the pace, just unfortunately it hasn't gone his way in this race, whether that be through his own fault or getting caught up in traffic, etc, etc. He just hasn't had the best of days, but still recomposing himself and showing that he's got the determination, the perseverance in order to press on and still hunt for a good result. This is our race leader at the moment, Lianos for Ground Effect Sim Racing Team. Qualified P2, just 2/1000ths of a second behind his teammate Zalagianis. 3.5 seconds lead he's got at the moment over his teammate who's on fresh medium tyres. Is Lianos trying to nurse these tyres to the end? That gap is coming down, but so too is the lap count. Is he just trying to hang on?
I think he is, Zach, because that's really the only way that Lianos is going to win this thing. But Zalagianis has shown so much pace in this race, even on the old mediums, that I really think that Lianos is really up against it here, especially with the traffic getting all in his way. But just a quick word on Musadis. You say he's an independent at the moment. I think after this, he might not be an independent for too much longer, especially with Ground Effect, with Van Vukas moving up. There is a place potentially for a new driver. I wonder if they might be looking at Musadis' performance with interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Wesley Buchert, a driver that's been on an absolute charge this race, comes into the pit lane for the final time onto soft compound tyres. 5 seconds back to Scott Flack. He's down to P8. With these fresh softs, he's going to be able to push these all the way to the end of this race and make up some places. I'd still count him in for a top 6, maybe a top 5 at a stretch, but he's got to dispatch Silveira as quickly as possible, get this move done, so then he's got all the time in the world. Well, not all the time in the world, but as much time as possible in order to press on and move very comfortably down into Brooklands. Not hard fought from Silveira. As Batala using a bit of push to pass, just trying to maintain the gap to Buchert probably as best he can and to Batala behind. But yeah, Lianos, 2.7 seconds is the gap. We've got around 6.5, 7 laps of racing left to go. So he's got the track position, but his teammate has got the fresher tyres. He's just got to stay composed. But fair play to him. He's done something different. He knows he can't beat his teammate on pure pace. He tried that in qualifying, fell just short. Zalagianis ran away in that first stint, and now he's coming back at him. But has he got enough push to pass and just sheer willpower? Has the tyres got enough life in him in order to defend this?
I'm not sure. It's quite a risky strategy, to be honest, but I could see him managing it. However, there's no turning back after the strategy call now. He can't pit now to get an easy P2 and take it easy. He has to go with the strategy now. I think that's the issue with it. He's committed to it now. That's a bit of a worry for him, but I can see it happening, him winning. It is down to 2 seconds now. He's catching about, I think, like 3-4 tenths a lap, so he might get that, but we also have to remember when he gets to the RS, it'll be even quicker. But he will defend, which is the interesting thing. It is like a lot of people say, it is one thing catching up, it is another thing getting past driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And once he is in that DRS range, Zalagianis, he will close the gap almost exponentially in order to get onto the back of his teammate. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, as you very rightly say. Lianos will put up a valiant defense, I'm sure, against his teammate. Hopefully not too valiant as to see them both out of this race, because yeah, they haven't got that big of a margin. It's not like they've run away with this race. They've only got about 6-7 second gap back to Musadis behind, who I think he's on a similar strategy to Lianos. Just take these tyres to the end, try and nurse them. Vagapov is there though with the DRS and the push to pass, putting some pressure on. So Musadis isn't set in stone for a podium finish today, but yeah, that gap Zalagianis is closing. So is Peter Vagapov. It is a tale of the alternate strategies, really is it today. But yeah, Lianos, I'm sure. He's because of the gap is only 8 seconds, as you say, very rightly say. He can't just pull back into the pit lane and claim it. He has to go to the end now, and he's just got to struggle through the pain. If it works off, it works off. But even if it doesn't, it gets to a point where how hard can he fight Zalagianis? How long can he keep him behind before he then starts to lose time to Musadis and Vagapov behind, and then fall victim to maybe falling off the podium off of P2?
Yeah, that is a risk, isn't it? There's only 5 laps remaining though. But certainly, it reminds me of... here we go, Vagapov having a go at Musadis. Around the outside in the Brooklands.
He's trying it. He's got the inside of Luffield as well. Very brave, but Muzeda's going to tuck in behind, maybe get the run, use that V-shaped line that Tobias was talking about a little bit earlier on. Unfortunately, can't get the drive off, but he's going to fight it. He's got the run down the hanger straight in just a few moments' time. If he can keep their pressure on, as long as he can stay close through Cobbs, through Maggots, through Beckett's, and through Chapel, he might have a run in order to launch a counter-attack. And that also could play into the hands of Lianos as well, just to stay close enough to then get yourself back in front and play that sort of switcheroo game. You're in front, I'm in front, you're in front, I'm in front. But has Muzeda's got the run? I don't think he has. I think he's falling a little bit too far behind. Vagapov using a bit of push to pass, and I think unfortunately Muzeda's going to have to cut his losses here and accept P4.
Yeah, that's definitely something he's going to have to do as we come on to lap 28 of 32. Zalogiannis just outside of the DRS zone there, coming into the first two Abbey and Farm, and now into the new section basically. So yeah, now Zalogiannis just outside of DRS range. Remember, it is 7/10, still just out there, so he's not going to have the chance now. This won't play into Lianos' hands, actually. I think I'd prefer to have the DRS going into, having him overtake into this, and then having that run into Stowe Corner. So no, he's not going to have it right now. He's just outside of it. Now he's in it. He was in it for a second, he's out of it again. Really close on him. Now he's got it. Now he's into it. This will be really, really close. Going onto the hanger straight. The outside straight, obviously, on this circuit. Through Cobbs. Can he keep it in? Yes, he can. Barely into the DRS now. This is where it is. He could have the move this lap. It is so close. My word, is it going to be good going onto the thing now? Will he have it? Push to pass from both of them. DRS. Zalogiannis has opened it now. I think he's just not there.
No, I don't think so. I think he's just too far behind. He was fighting on the edge of the DRS, wasn't he? He was just sort of there, sort of not. But yeah, now he's well and truly in that range. And he wants to get this move done because his medium tyres, yes, they're fresher, but they certainly will lose their momentum, won't they? Because, yes, they will lose how much quicker they can be versus Lianos' tyres. He's all over the back of him now, though. We surely will see a run down in towards Brooklands off the Wellington Straight, through Abbey, through Farm, through this flat out left. Is he close enough to launch one to the inside? Not quite, but he certainly thought about it. Through Village of turn 3, this right-hander looking to the left-hand side is Zalogiannis. He's trying to go for the move, set up the better exit, set up the better run through Aintree. He's got the DRS, surely with some push to pass. He'll just fly past his teammate on lap 29 of 32. His teammate tried. Is it going to fail? Is it all going to come unraveled? He's not closing enough. Pulling towards the inside of Brooklands. He's late under brakes. His teammate's going to go the long way round, though, of Brooklands. Quickly becomes the inside of Luffield. And now he's under pressure. He's under a world of pressure. But for now, he's keeping this lead. Now, off the run through Woodcote and on this run towards Cops. Already, Zalogiannis looking to the inside. And I think this could be a done deal move.
Yeah, there we go. Zalogiannis takes the lead then. But Lianos did really, really well to hold off for as long as he did, like you say, Zach. And meanwhile, but Bukat has just passed Batala for 5th, so he's already got back up there. But I think that's where Wesley Bukat's going to finish then.
Probably is. That seems to be the end of his run. 18 seconds in a couple of laps. Probably is slightly outlandish. Lianos, can he mount a counter-attack on his teammate? He's closing, but I don't think by quite enough. I think he's sort of out of push to pass and unfortunately can't put that pressure on. But with only a couple of laps to go, as long as he can stay there, all it takes is a slight twitch from Zalogiannis, and then Lianos is back in range. And he is still there, still keeping him honest, still in the slipstream. Maybe he's waiting for an offensive Tobias.
Yeah, definitely. That could be something. However, now I think this is where it's sort of coming up to like I don't think the move's going to happen anymore. He's only, I mean, it is 5/10 right now, but it's just that moment where he's just a little bit too far now, and it's slowly just unraveling out of his favour for the win.
Yeah, it really is. Well, through the loop, potentially he's there. Maybe the DRS detection point could come a little bit quicker. A bit of a snap from Zalogiannis, though. That's the thing that will be, playing in the back of Lianos' mind, that it could still happen. It is still on. He has got the DRS and a bit of push to pass just to keep him inside that range. Just about flirting on the edge of it again. But yeah, it will just take either Zalogiannis' tyres to lose their momentum, lose their gain, or for a bit of a mistake. But either way, it was a good defense from Lianos for as long as it was. He tried, and he probably will come short, but still he had to try, and it wasn't by much. He didn't lose it by much.
No, not at all. And we saw in the first stint, he was running right behind Zalogiannis when they were both on the soft. So there was a sense that Lianos sort of had to try something. And in the end, he just went onto that set of mediums, tried to get them to the end, and he's going to get them to the end, but he just didn't have the same life in them that Zalagianis did. If he needed a bit more, he really needed Zalagianis to come out behind Vagapov and Musakis, didn't he? If that happened, that could have changed, or he could have only had to deal with Zalagianis for maybe 1 or 2 laps rather than 6 like he did in the end.
Absolutely, he was just hoping for Zalagianis to get caught up in some traffic. Muzetis is still putting some pressure on to Peter Vagapov there. The gap only a couple of tenths of a second as we go on to the penultimate lap of this race. Maybe Muzetis might be able to get his first podium in the Formula Sim Racing Academy Championship, and that certainly will get his name onto the radar of a couple of teams, potentially as Edwards was saying a little bit earlier on, that third ground effect car, which, you know, are a very successful team, and well, Muzetis, I would say he'd make a pretty damn good addition to that team.
Yeah, I should say Nandor Master was actually in the third car at Grand Effect, so it would be the 4th car because they were running 4 or up to 5, I think, earlier in the season. It was pretty insane. But anyway, here's that battle for third. And Vagapov also fighting for his own first podium in Academy, I believe. So neither of them wants to give it up.
No, neither are going to want to give it up, but one of them is going to have to come short at the end of it through Woodcote and on the old pit straight towards Copse. Muzetis losing a bit of momentum. He just hasn't quite got the straight line speed, but as they flick right through Copse, it's all about maintaining the momentum. A hop, skip and a jump through the next sequence of corners in order to get that run down the hanger straight, through the left, through the right, through the left again, just flick it down the gears, a tab on the brakes for the next right, and then through Chapel. He's got the DRS. Has he got enough slipstream? Has he got the push to pass? But he might just want to wait for the last lap, might just want to save it, Tobias, for when Vagapov can't come back at him.
Yeah, or his tires might actually be they're really not looking very good as tires anymore. You can really see the lines on the middle of the tire. So those tires look really old now. I'm not sure he'll have that tire speed. He's barely in the DRS. Anyways, it's going to be quite tough for him.
Really is. Now we're on to the final lap. Lap 32 of 32. Zalagianis is able to put out a 1.4 second gap over his teammate. It might well be a similar display as we saw in Japan last time out, though roles reversed. It was Lianos that won in Japan. It might well be Zalagianis that wins this time out. Either way, a ground effect 1-2, and they are very, very dominant in the Academy Championship. I think Edward said a little bit earlier on, they've won pretty much, well, I think every race with a different driver at some point. So yeah, really are the team to beat and are the team to watch. But Lianos, he's trying as hard as he possibly can.
Indeed, and Zalagianis will be the first repeat winner of this season, then having won in Imola and San Marino as well. But yes, all credit to Lianos for putting up a good fight and putting up a show. It was only really with 3 laps to go that Zalagianis got through. So certainly, you full credit to both Grand Effect drivers for entertaining us today.
Absolutely, they've given us some action. Of course, big shout out to Wesley Bukout from the back of the grid to a top 5 finish. It has been fantastic, but all eyes on this man. Zalagianis pole by 2/1000ths of a second. He nearly got pipped by his teammate in qualifying, nearly got pipped by his teammate in the race. But once again, as they round through Club Corner, it's going to be another 1-2 for the Ground Effect Sim Racing cars. It's Zalagianis this time, though, who takes the British Grand Prix ahead of his teammate Lianos.
Yeah, excellently done by them. Grand Effect really did dominate this race. I mean, those guys, they just drove brilliant. We got Peter Vagapov in P and Muzetis P4, but really well done. And Wesley Book out here, P5 from basically, I believe, penultimate position.
Yeah, P26.
Yeah, that is a statement and a half from him. He's been really good this season. Unfortunately, had to start from the back. So no, really well done to him.
It's just on days like these, isn't it?
Yeah, and Bukout got the fastest lap, 129.3, which is immense there.
Yeah, he's just been on fire, and it's days like these where you've just got to limit the damage and sort of hope that things go your way. But in a fight for a championship, he knows how quick he is, but in shortcomings that things aren't particularly going his way, he's fought through, he's kept composed, and he's just fought back as best he can. And yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see how the rest of the season unfolds. That was round 4, very, very close in the midfield. We saw that massive train a little bit earlier on as we wait for the rest of the drivers to finish. We had a fair share of drama, but yeah, certainly was a race to remember, Tobias.
Yeah, it really was. It's one of the good things. It's one of those typical Silverstone races where you've got that essence of tyre strategy and brilliant racing. I mean, the amount of moves we saw in Magus and Beckett's was really wonderful to see.
And to you, Edward, what were your thoughts of the race before we go to the live standings? In fact, we will go to the live standings first. The top 10 are as follows. It was a 1-2 again for Ground Effect Sim Racing teams. George Zalagianis P1, Lianos in second place. Peter Vagapov rounds off the podium in P3, but all eyes on this man, Musadis in P4, a stellar outing in the Academy Championship, P4. Wesley Bukout, P5 from the back of the grid, fantastic job by him. Garrett Battler, P6, with Silviera in P7. Scott Flack in 8th, with Liam Howard, P9. After his pretty misfortunate race, he managed to fight back to P9 and inject remits, rounding off the top 10 today after 32 laps. This is from 11th to 20th. Mattis Harvick in P11. Sophie Jones, a good result for them in P12. John Michael Gagne in P13. With Dimitri Zalhoff of Valley Esports P14. Morlato rounding off the top 15. Dylan Hember 16th with Snep Vangers P17. Marsa P18. Loic Moynier after a podium last time out in Japan P19 today for the Team Irish driver. He would definitely have hoped for more with Dylan Platt rounding off the top 20. I think, unfortunately, a lap down. Fabrice Mistral P21, Alex Arville P22 with Essing P23, Kamal Lingos in P24 with 3 DNFs today of Andrea Miarisoa, Thomas Smith and Sloveniak, who unfortunately didn't get to the end of the race. We lost 2 of them pretty early on. Unfortunately, we lost Andrea Miarisoa with a pretty unfortunate mistake through Stowe. Just a slight bit of contact sent them round. But yeah, Edward, finally we can come to you. What were your thoughts of that?
Really enjoyed the race. Great to see so many side by side and lots of moves on the outside as well. That was quite entertaining. But it was really the tyre strategy, I think, like Tobias alluded to, that was absolutely crucial today. Peter Vagapov really the only one to make the hard tyres work. Everyone else, it was basically softs and mediums, with, I think, a lot of drivers preferring the softs and Ground Effects leaving the medium stints right to the end. But yeah, really entertaining. Really hard to figure out which way it was going to go in some of those battles. But yeah, the standouts are certainly the Ground Effect drivers and Wesley Bukout getting all the way down from outside the top 20 into 5th place and really making it look very easy. But of course, it wasn't, not at all.
Yeah, it really wasn't easy for all of these guys. Well, before we round it off, guys, I'll go with my driver of the day. I'm definitely going to have to say Bukout from the back of the grid. He did a phenomenal job. But Edward, what would you say? Who was your star driver today?
Oh, I would have to go with Musadis. I thought doing really well, even to keep in the DRS of Vagapov on the mediums that were much worn than compared to the hard tyres. But I still think Vagapov did an excellent job to sort of keep the faith in the hard tyres, even when Musadis got past him. So that was sort of where my attention was, outside of the top 2, of course. But I tend to go for the less obvious ones. So yeah, I'll go for Stavros Musadis as my driver of the day.
And Tobias, what about you?
Well, I think we're gonna have to agree with you there, Zach. I think Wesley deserves driver of the day. That he drove an impeccable race. There's nothing else to be said, really. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And as we go to the championship standings after round 4, it is Zalagianis. It is a 1-2 in the championship for Ground Effect, but Zalagianis edging himself ahead by a good margin, 110 points for him as opposed to 82 for Lianos. Liam Howard P3 with Vagapov 4th. Wesley Bukout P5 after missing round 2 and scoring no points. Still in the mix, still there with Silviera P6, Mattas Harvick P7. Kostas Van Vukas after moving up to Pro. He is not one to look out for, but he is one to look out for in the Pro. Scott Flack P9, Loic Moynier in P10 for the championship. It's certainly sizing up to be one that's interesting with only 6 rounds left to go. We'll be back for the community vote race on the 1st of May, but for today, the action is not over. We've still got the Pro and World Championship races left to go. I'll be on Pro alongside Richard King in just a few moments' time. But I've been Zach Sweeney. I've had Tobias Blumschein and Edward Hunter alongside me. From us, it's been a fantastic race. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, our broadcast partner Aviso, Mesita Esports, 3D Wraps, and SimLabs as well for supporting FSR. We'll see you on the 1st of May, ladies and gents. We hope you have enjoyed. Bye-bye.
you.